Hey guys, Bound to Divide here with Ableton Tips, and today I'm going to be taking you through a sort of Anjuna style breakbeat kind of loop, and this is how it sounds. Okay, so if you like the sound of that, all the drums in this track were made with the D Premium Volume 6 pack, which is out now. But let's dive into everything and break it down and see how it was done. Okay, so the first element is this lead element. Okay, and so this was made with Operator. It's actually a kind of a simple sound to make, but it sounds really cool. It almost sounds like a vocal to me, especially with the weird pitching and stuff in it. So yeah, let me take you through this sound and show you how to recreate it. Okay, so when you load up Operator, you are going to have to click on this button over here and select this routing here. You'll see there's different algorithms, basically just different routings, and the routing I'm selecting here is serial, or sorry, not serial, everything is routed in parallel, so all the different oscillators are going straight out through the filters and to the master. They're not affecting each other. In the normal routing, you're doing frequency modulation, where each oscillator is modulating the one below it in the standard routing over here. So make sure you switch it to that. Okay, then I'm just going to turn that off and take you through the oscillators one by one. So the first oscillator we've got is a triangle wave. And you can hear there's lots of pitching happening here, and that's because I've got glide on. Let me turn it off and show you how it sounds. So yeah, we just got a plain triangle wave, and we have a look at the envelope. It's got sustain all the way up to 0, and you can choose your triangle wave over here. And then the second oscillator we have a saw wave here, and the level of the saw wave set to minus 22 dB, and the coarse here is at 0.5, so it's an octave below the other oscillator. So now I've got like a bit more harmonics to work with in the sound. And then the last thing I add to this is some white noise. So here you can choose noise white, and the envelope's also fully sustained. The level's at minus 20 dB, and now we get a really noisy sound. Then what we do is we filter it, so we turn on this filter, and the filter is set to 18 kilohertz. I'm not sure that's actually really doing anything, so I don't know why I have that set up. You probably don't need that. Okay, then I've got this pitch envelope turned on, and again, it's really not doing much. It's not that necessary. I'm only doing 1.6% pitch envelope, and the decay is at 1 millisecond. So I was probably just playing with the attack and trying to see if it sounded good to add some pitch like this. But it didn't, so I just brought it back down to these values. So the main thing you need to worry about on this tab is the spread here, which is at 69%, and that's spreading the white noise quite a lot. So normally it'll sound like this. Spread this out. It spreads the white noise and the oscillators, so it just makes it nice and wide. And then here on the pitch envelope tab, if you click on that, here's where you enable glide and you set the time. So here we've set the time to 347 milliseconds, and we just enable the glide by clicking on that G. And then it changes the sound quite a lot, because now we have this glide happening between all the notes. Okay, and then it goes into a reverb. And that sounds like this. So the reverb's at 50% and the decay is at 9 seconds, so it's quite a long reverb. And then I've got auto pan on it. So auto pan is set up so it's not just doing the panning, because usually the phase is set to 180 degrees. So the left and the right are being panned, or the volume of the left and right are going up interchangeably, and that's what causes the auto pan to basically pan the sound left and right. Like that. But now if you bring the phase down to 0, it's really just controlling the overall volume. And then we set it to the saw wave shape and set the rate here to, if you click on this little button here, you can set it to a 16th note, and then you get this nice gated rhythmic kind of tremolo effect. Okay, and then I'm sidechaining it to our kick drum. Here you can see sidechain to kick. And these are the settings for sidechain, so 30 seconds release, and the threshold's at minus 23. But this is obviously depending on your kick, so I just generally try to go for about, I don't know, yeah, it's doing about 10 dB of gain reduction. It's just allowing the kick to like kind of poke through, because the kick's quite soft and thumpy, not really clicky, so it struggles to come through the mix. And then we've got this EQA taking out all that noise down there. And then I'm using this EQ to kind of roll off the noise a bit and darken the sound. And then autofilter's doing pretty much the same thing. So here, this is at 2 kilohertz, and it kind of opens up over time. And then I have another autofilter. I'm not really sure why I put another autofilter. Probably could have just... I guess it darkens the sound even more. And then an EQ8 here just boosting a little bit here around 2K. Just adds a little bit more presence to the sound. Okay, then we got this ARP that fades in around here. Okay, so let's just take a look at that. I'm gonna turn off all the effects. So this is the MIDI. This is what the MIDI looks like. So we're working in B minor, and the idea with this was really to just play with notes that are a little more like melancholic. So basically playing with the fifths and the third and the minor third, and then we're also playing with the second over here. And because we've got all this delay, the notes kind of wash over each other, and it almost builds like chords, so to speak, because all of these harmonies are washing over each other. And so when I made this, I was just thinking about like what chord would sound nice over the track, and so going for pretty much like a B minor chord with a second in there. And then we've also got this seventh. That's just kind of bringing us back into the next pattern of notes. And I just think it sounds really nice. And so let's just have a look at the sound design for this. So here you can see we've got unison on, so I'm just going to turn that off so you can hear how it sounds without unison. So it's pretty much just a plain old saw wave, kind of boring sound on its own. Let's turn off the filter. Okay, so we have one oscillator here. We've set it to a saw wave. You can slide this up here till you get a saw wave. And then we're using the amp envelope to make it plucky. So the decay is at 228 milliseconds, sustains at -17. And then we've got this filter enabled, and that's set to 1.3 kilohertz, the resonance at 18%. And that is really just opening up over the course of this loop. So from here, you don't really hear it, and then it starts coming through nicely over here. Okay, then to make the sound a little more detuned and not so plain, I've used unison here. And sometimes you get like nicer effects by choosing a different one from classic. Shimmer can sound nice. I also really like the noise one. That adds a bit of like noise, almost sounds like noise FM, and makes the sound quite dirty. I actually quite like that one. Let's leave it there and make a little bit of a change. And then I go into an overdrive. And this really like distorts the higher frequencies. The dry wet and all the settings are left at default. The only thing I did was move this filter so that it's, instead of distorting like the entire signal in these lower harmonics, it's only distorting the higher frequencies, which sounds better to my ear, and it just adds a really nice warm presence. Okay, then this echo is where most of the magic is happening here. So we've got reverb enabled here at 42%, and then I've unlinked these. So the right one's at quarter note and the left's at an eighth note, and we've got a feedback at 76%. And then the filter is not really doing much, just taking out everything above 10K pretty much. And a bit of sub, but that's not really doing anything because there's no real sub in the sound. So you can hear that does a lot to really like make it all pretty and washy.
Hi, this video is sponsored by us. If you like these tutorials and want to support the channel, check out our website packed with online courses and professional sound packs. If you want to cut years of your learning curve, check the PML Beginner to Advanced Music Production program for Ableton Live. You will know Ableton inside out and learn how to write, produce, mix and master complete tracks. You learn step by step at your own speed, from an empty file to professional production, as if we're sitting side by side in the studio. Thank you for listening, and now let's get back to your tutorial.
And then we have a bit of a compression here, sidechain compression to the kick, but only a very little bit. I didn't feel like it needed a lot to come out of the mix. Okay, then I've got this mid bass here, and this, it's kind of just almost like a respace, but doesn't sound super resy. I just wanted something that was a little wider and just warm to like fill out these frequencies over here. And so I made that. Let me just turn this off. Again, using this unison mode here, classic. The voices are set to 2 and the synth is mono. So if I turn this off, it's really just a saw wave with a bit of drive on it, but with the unison, it makes it nice and wide. We got 2 voices and they're detuned, and it almost makes it like a respace kind of sound. Alright, so yeah, let me just turn that off and go back to bare bones over here. Alright, so we got 2 oscillators here, and one's at 0 semitones and one's at plus 12 semitones. And they're just basically filling out a big range of frequencies because their saw is so rich in harmonics, and now we got 2 octaves of them. It really just fills out so much. And then we go into this filter, which is filtering out everything below 500 hertz. Everything above 500 hertz. And I set it to PRD mode here, so that enables this drive, and we get like 9 dB of drive here and a bit of resonance, and that also like really warms up the sound. And then the envelope shape is fully sustained, so there's no decay and the sound just stays at the same level the entire time. And there's no modulation or anything. And then we got the unison spreading it out and detuning it. And then I saturated it a bit more. And this EQ was disabled, so it's not doing anything. And then taking out more of the lower frequencies to make room for a separate sub. And the reason for that is this. If you have a look at it, that lower harmonic is going up and down because it's detuned and it's phasing. It's going in and out of phase, which is making the volume go up and down. So I'm just filtering out that lower harmonic. And then I have another sub here, a separate sub. And then we're sidechaining it just as we did before with the other channels. Okay, and then, so here's the sub. So I basically just duplicated that channel. So you can see the saturation is still on. I've just removed the EQ. And now we've just got this nice stable sub over here. And all that is it's the same exact patch as before, but I just turned off the 2 oscillators and turned on the sub oscillator, which is just a sine wave. But because we've got this filter drive that was enabled and we've got the saturator enabled, it doesn't just sound like a sine wave. So if I had to disable that, we have just a sine wave, which is just one fundamental harmonic. And then if I turn this on, and the saturator, we start getting all these other harmonics that just fill out the sub and just make it feel a bit thicker and warmer. And yeah, so together they make a nice full bass sound. Okay, then we got all the drums, which sound like this. Okay, so the first channel here is this kick. And the kick we're using is this TE Kick 008 from the D Premium Volume 6 pack. All of these are from D Premium Volume 6, all of the drums. And I love this kick, it's super soft. It's like someone hitting a pillow with a baseball bat or something. And so I just boosted the sub a little bit and a little bit of the high end and reduced a little bit around 200 hertz. So it just makes it a bit more subby. And the pattern I followed was just the typical like breakbeat pattern. And then I added like a little ghost note here. And nothing else really interesting about that kick drum. Okay, then we got the clap. And the clap is this sample, snare 006. Actually sounds more like a clap to me, that's why I called it clap. I guess it's laid a clap and a snare together. On its own, it's pretty dry, and if you listen to that in the mix, it doesn't really sit in there. Like, the tune is really like atmospheric, so you need to make everything kind of fit that feeling, and how I did that was by using this really long reverb. It's not really long, 2-second reverb, but filtering out pretty much all the low end and a lot of the high end to make it almost feel like a cave kind of a reverb. I don't know what else to call it other than cave. And that really adds to the track. So with and without, helps quite a lot. And I've also got a little bit of a ghost note that happens at the end there. Okay, then I've got this Perc sound here. I'm not really sure what it is. Sounds like something wooden, and I didn't process that at all, I think. Yeah, I didn't even pitch it or anything. So this is just drag and drop in there, and I just really like the feeling of it. Probably turn that up a bit. And yeah, then we have this organic Perc loop here, Perc loop 005, and that sounds like this. And I just like the groove of it with all the drums. So if we just solo this together. Yeah, it was just like a nice little drum fill. The problem is it felt a bit dry and not really sitting in the mix, and that's just because everything else was so like reverby. So we need to make it feel like it's sitting in the same place. So I added a bit of reverb to that. Just a really short reverb on this one. The size is really small and the decay time is 432 milliseconds, and it's got quite a high dry weight on there, 60%. And then we have this texture. So I just thought it sounded really nice in the mix without it. Just adding just like a nice noisy texture, making the track have a little bit more depth to it. And so that's Perc loop 017. And I just filtered out some of the stuff in there because it had quite a lot of low end information and it was just muddying up the mix a bit. See that? And then the next channel is this real hat loop. So I didn't process this one other than just taking out a little bit of low end. But I just wanted some hats that sounded like a bit more acoustic and natural, because I wanted this whole groove to feel a bit less electronic, even though it still sounds quite electronic, but it just a bit more, I don't know, quirky. And I thought having a real hat loop in there would sound good, and I think it does fit quite nicely. Okay, then I got this little long hat here, I called it. That's hat 10, and that's almost like a crash, if you will, or an open hi-hat. It's just kind of signaling the start of the loop. So I've placed it here and halfway through, and then it just kind of brings you into the next 8 bars. And I didn't process that one either. And then last we have a shaker loop and a tambourine loop, and those were not processed either. I just set the volumes, dragged them in, and they just sound great together. So that's the shaker loop and that's the tambourine loop. And I think tambourine loops always sound really good in breakbeats, because I think the original like Amen and Think Breaks, they have like a tambourine somewhere in that loop, so it's just kind of feels right to have them in there. Okay, and then lastly, just on the master, I have a glue compressor, and I'm just using that to push the volume up a little bit. It's not by any means a full mastering chain, but I just turn on the soft clipper here and turn the makeup gain up until I see it, this clip light turning on. And that just tells me that the signal is pretty much pushed to its maximum. I mean, I could probably clip this a lot more. And it doesn't even sound distorted over here. So yeah, I just like using the glue compressor instead of the Ableton limiter, because the Ableton limiter just sounds so obvious when you turn it on. You can hear the volume ducking so much, it's not very transparent at all. So yeah, that's it for this loop. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you enjoyed the sounds, the drum sounds, make sure to grab that D Premium Volume 6 pack. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.